Hey everybody, my name is Josh Kuchar. I am the head of marketing and sales at Shawami. I am joined by none other than the investment guru, the Boss Life podcast host herself, and truly works with so many investors. I know because I have gotten to see her at coffee shops working specifically with investors. This is Stef Peters, everyone, real estate agent. Say hi to everybody.
Oh, Josh, I am so honored to be here. When you reached out on Instagram and just said, hey, let's collaborate on this, I said, absolutely. I love partnering with other agents and networking and just helping us just raise the bar in the industry and investing. I've been doing that since 2008. So it is my first love. I did that before I became an agent. So I'm ready to get this party started with you.
Well, let's start right there. So, what prompted you to get into investing?
So I actually was raised in a family where my mom and dad, they would teach goals, dreams, attitude, and success seminars. And my dad was always preaching multiple streams of residual income, just in case one dries up. You've got a couple of others to choose from. And like we were talking about before, digging your well before you're thirsty. So even though that I had no idea what was going on, my dad came to me and he's like, hey, there's some different investments. Do you want to partner up with me on them? And in my first business that I had started, being a marketing rep for an Inc. 500 company, I had some extra money to invest. So I said, okay, let's do it. So he invested 51%. I invested 49%. And that was in a townhome in Northfield, Minnesota. In a good economy, it was going for like 225. We bought it for 105. And then I paid his half off with interest because he's German. And he's a very bottom line
Dad
guy.
wouldn't even just let you get that house on
No,
cash. He's like,
no,
no,
not
I'm
at
gonna
all.
lend you the money to get
He
there.
was going to
Wow.
lend me at what the interest rate was at the time. And so, after seeing that property and getting it cash flowing from day one and really getting that confidence, being like, you know what, I really didn't necessarily need his help. That was great guidance, but I can do this on my own. So then after that rental became a really great asset, then I bought another property and another property and another property. And it was all like a side hustle for me as I was building my first business. And I am so grateful that I did that because, I love real estate. I love transactions. I love helping buyers and sellers, but I don't have to rely on that income in order to live my best life, I guess you could say. Like I hit that financial freedom number early on in the game so that if all my other streams of income went away, my investment income could sustain me, which is a great feeling to have. So I am such an advocate to, agents saying, hey guys, even though that when the market is amazing, it's amazing, but when it shifts, what else do you have that can complement your transactional business?
Yeah, and I know today we're going to be talking about, personal investing as real estate agents, but also talking to your investors in today's current weather of the storm, as you might call it. What's
Yes.
going on today? How do you still talk to them? How do you communicate that, hey, there's still value in investing in real estate? So I'm definitely excited to jump in. I know you have some principles that you specifically go by. So I don't know if you want to start off with those.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of times when people say, hey, I want to get started in investing, but I don't even know where to start, or even, especially in this market, maybe a client will say, well, if there isn't massive cash flow, I don't want to invest. I really like to debunk the myths that the main thing that all investors are looking for is just cash flow. That's not true. There's so many added benefits to why investing makes sense in all different types of markets. So I just want to lay down that framework for you guys, just so that you can get a good bird's eye view of why invest in real estate and why it makes so much sense. So first off, this is a very well-known stat. Real estate creates 90% of millionaires. And so when you are talking with investors, or even for yourself, think about all the different ways of how you can make income and make money with real estate. It is not just cash flow. I love cash flow, do not get me wrong, but let's break this down. So first off, profit. The profit on the property when you buy a property, and let's say the mortgage is $2,000 a month, and let's say your renters are paying $2,500 or $3,000 a month, you get the rent minus, the payment, let's say it's that $2,500 minus the rent. That is going to give you $500 in cash flow. So that is the profit. That is what a lot of people think that's where it stops. No, that's where it starts. The other piece of it is the principal pay down. So the principal of the mortgage getting paid every single month. So when you have a payment of, let's say, $2,500, there's so much that goes to interest and there's so much that goes to the principal. So I always say you are literally paying down this property month after month after month, so that once it is paid off, you have something that's spitting off income to you every single month. So that's an exciting place to be. Depreciation of the house. Some people get a little confused on how this works, but it's a pretty simple concept. I don't know why the government decided 27 and a half years was the number, but I guess that's what they decided. So let's do some easy math. Let's say you buy an investment property that is $270,000. You can actually depreciate $10,000 every single year on that property. So let's say someone makes six figures, when they own that property, they can depreciate to $90,000. So it is a really great way, even from a tax perspective, to not have to pay as many taxes, which, especially when you get into those higher income tax brackets, this can be an absolute game changer. And then the other piece is the appreciation of the asset. Let's say that the property is worth $100,000. More than likely, it'll be worth more next year. And very rarely do you not see that happening. Josh and I were even talking before we started this recording, and we were referencing Barbara Corcoran, and she was saying how, there are a lot of people that are sitting on the sidelines in the real estate arena, just waiting for the interest rates to go down. But she said, you know what? You need to be very aware that as soon as those interest rates go down, people are going to flood the market. The properties are going to jump as far as the value 10 to 15%. And now you've got bidding wars and it's just a hot mess. She's like, you need to marry the house and date the rate. You can always refinance. And what was the other thing that you had said, Josh, on what she had just recently said as well?
Yeah, regardless, home prices are still going up. Like there's no end to it. Whether or not the interest rates continue to go up, everything's still moving upward. We're seeing only pockets of markets actually decreasing in the home values. So she's saying that even with those happening, we're going to overall see the increase go right back up, even because unfortunately it's partly because there's no inventory. That was what she was really pointing to.
Yep, exactly. And then the other piece is that interest deduction. Every month you pay interest on a home, you can deduct that in your taxes. So really just kind of a fun way to think about the short term and the long term of really what you're building in that financial future. I think it's so important, especially with investors, is to help them get crystal clear on what is your end game. Because for some people, it solely is cash on cash return. For other people, it is the appreciation of the asset. For other people, they're just saying, saying, hey, I just want to have a beautiful home to call my own, that's a second home for my family, and get it paid for. Like whatever that thing is, it's not a one size fits all. So, if someone says, oh, that's not a good cap rate on a home, well, it might not be a good cap rate on a home for one investor, but it might be a home run for someone else. So I think that's so important to keep that into perspective.
Absolutely. And knowing your investors' goals.
Mhm.
I think you're going to cover it later, so I won't try and steal any of that kind of thunder, but every investor has a different goal. They could want to fix and flip a junk property into a rental property. They could want something that's turnkey. Everybody's got a different goal. And as the agent, it's best to just listen and understand in that goal and say, hey, I have found the opportunity for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I really love to get crystal clear with an investor. So, like, let's say, Josh, you and I, or most of the time, I do my buyer's consults via Zoom. So, if you want, let's just say that you are a first time investor, and you can even just share, hey, this is my scenario of what I'm looking to accomplish with my wife and I. If we want to do even just a role play of how I would kind of like walk you through piece by piece by piece, so that they can understand how to have just a very informal conversation with a new investor. Because I have a lot of people even reaching out to me on social media saying, hey, looks like you've had a lot of success in real estate investing. As of last Friday, I now own 19 doors. And they're like, hey, I want to dig that well before I'm thirsty. Even one of my girlfriends, little side note, her name is Kelly. She lives in Minnesota. She's been a long-term friend of mine. And she reached out to me on Instagram and she's like, man, I feel like you're buying all the buildings and I'm buying all the bags and I don't have anything to show for it. And I want to be able to build generational wealth for my family. How do I get started? So if you want to just tell me, hey, this is the scenario of what I'm in, and then we can just have a real lifetime conversation of what I would say to really set them up for success.
Sure. So, and let's do two different perspectives.
Absolutely.
We'll start with this one, and then once we're good with this, we'll jump into the next one. So, all right, Steph, I'm looking at buying my first investment property. My wife and I have about 10,000 to put down on a property. We're wanting something that's on a long-term rental side because we want to kind of grow the wealth over time and have something that's easily gets renters in, and it's going to, maybe we have to do a couple of fixtures, but we're probably only looking at spending $2,000 to $3,000 and fixing it up.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
what are your thoughts? Should I go for, we were looking at, there's some tax deductions when it comes to owning an actual apartment. And then there's, owning a house. Where would you steer us?
Yeah. Well, it really depends on what you ultimately want to do. So, Josh, tell me a little bit more of like, what's your end game? Would you like to own multiple units? Would you like to just own one? Like, what's your end game of what you're looking to accomplish as far as your real estate investing journey?
Right. So I know this is my start. So right now, I want something easy. I
Mhm.
want I want to make sure that when I buy this property, that I have something very smooth sailing. That's why I'm going the long-term rental. I don't want the headaches. I want these are the things that I want. I want this home over time to really just pay for itself, because I want to, like you said earlier, I want to build that generational wealth for me and my family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really not a one size fits all. So it depends on what you want to accomplish. It sounds like you want something that's pretty turnkey. What do you do in your regular business? How much time do you have to allocate to get this up and rolling?
So in my regular business, I do work 9 to 5, and so does my wife. So we are fairly busy. So the flexibility during the day probably isn't as much, but we're pretty flexible, in the evenings. So I've got availability to probably spend a couple hours here and there on the weekends doing small fix-ups. It's just not something that we want to be full-time invested into making sure that it stays clean or making sure that everything's fixed. That's sort of our mentality.
Yes, and you said you have how much money to invest right now in a property?
Sure. So we were thinking, and you can steer us the right direction. And we've got 10,000 to put down. We were thinking maybe 3,000, 2 to 3,000 for repairs. So I
Okay.
guess the total is about 13,000.
Yeah. If you have about 13,000 to, or 10,000 to invest, it really depends on how much you want to put down on the actual property. Because if you want to put a little bit more down, then your payment is going to be a little bit less. So what we can do is we can crunch the numbers. I'd love to get you in touch with like a go-to lender of mine. Or if you've got a go-to lender, that's great, but they'll really break down for you what is going to make the most sense. If a single family home is going to make the most sense as a rental, or if a condo is going to make the most sense, or like doing a syndication, really dialing in and investing that in like a syndication with multiple people. So why don't you talk to them first? And then once we get a good bird's eye view of like what's going on with your finances, then we can make an informed decision and then either set you up with a search or connect you with someone that could, help you with a syndication.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I a lot of times will like to, when I'm chatting with a new investor, really try to understand where they're coming from, what their financial backstory looks like. I can only get so much information, but it's really the telltale is going to be what is the lender going to say. And also the other thing to keep in mind, what one lender says is not necessarily what another lender will say. So I always want to tell them, why don't you get a couple of different quotes and also talk about terms with all of them, because I want to make sure that you get the best terms, the best rates, and this works the best for you. So helping them see what their options are.
Got it.
Yep. Go ahead.
All right. So the other one. All right. So, hey, Steph, we're looking at buying another property. We do own 3 long-term rental properties. However, right now I'm looking at buying a vacation property in Colorado because who doesn't want a vacation rental property in the mountains? But I also don't want to be fully responsible for all the payments. So I was thinking, I live in Florida. Most of the time, I don't need it. If I could rent it out, what kind of advice could I get? I'm looking, it's in the mountains and it's in Colorado. So I've really got probably 120 to put down easy.
Oh, awesome. Great. Well, I love working with real estate agents all over the United States. So what I want to do is I want to find and help you find the best real estate agent that we can work in tandem with, because I am very well versed in the long term, the short term, the seasonal type of rentals. I know the ins and outs on that. I have built courses out on that. As soon as you get, under contract, I will give that to you for free. But I also want to make sure that I have the boots on the ground in Colorado that will guide you through step by step, because that is not my zone of genius. And I want to make sure that you're well taken care of. And then once I actually have that conversation with that investor, then I'm going to either go on a Colorado Airbnb page or seasonal rental type of a page. And I really want to make sure that I have an agent that knows their stuff in the area. Because when I recommend an agent, my name is going on that. And I want to make sure that they know exactly what they're doing.
And that they have a reputation, I'm sure, for having multiple buyers that have bought long-term or short-term
Oh,
rentals.
exactly. I want to get to know their sales, their stats. Even a lot of times I want to even know like who are some of your clients that you've worked with that you've helped them to create success, because we all know everyone and their mother is an agent.
Yeah.
Well, especially here in Southwest Florida. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence. So especially as agents, we want to make sure that our reputation is on the line. We want to make sure that we have agents that know what they're doing and they can work in tandem with us. And then we can be those great referral partners. I truly believe, especially in this industry, our network is our net worth. Like even for me, like we had mentioned with like the tax liens, that's not my zone of genius, but I'm sure within 5 minutes I could find someone that could be there, that is their zone of genius. So I don't want to give that information, but I want to have that person in my circle. So I think as agents, we owe it to ourselves to continually build our network so that, hey, I'm not the contractor, I'm not the pool person, I'm not the cleaner, I'm not this, I'm not that. But if you are specializing and you are niching down into being the investor-friendly real estate agent, you need to have these amazing resources for your clients and take the time. Like even when my clients get under contract on a property, I have a whole resource of this is the electrician, this is the plumber, this is the pool person, and I have a number of different people. So, if there's one pool person that maybe someone doesn't have an amazing experience with, that they do their own due diligence.
Well, I think one of the big notes or something that I don't know if anybody else got that little spark that, Steph said, she goes straight to Airbnb pages, real estate agents sharing things of their success. If you're wanting to grow in this space, even just being a fly on the wall in those conversations that others are having is going to help grow your knowledge. So if there's one thing, everybody, real quick, that you can grab is go on to those pages and start getting in there and learning from others. Not only that, but build your network.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing to say on that is I'm sure we've all had this experience where we say, hey, I needed an investor-friendly agent in Dallas, Texas. And then how many people jump on that? OMG, if you want your Facebook to light up, just do that. But I will say that can be skewed because people can sell themselves all day long. But I think it's better to even go into those like Airbnb investors in the Dallas area. And obviously things have shifted even in Dallas in the Airbnb arena. But I like to actually look to see what type of conversations where agents are actually adding value to these conversations. And it's not just a take. Hey, I'm an agent. It's like, no, who are the people that have actually been adding value? Those are the people that I want to collaborate with because they're the real deal.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's like, hey, I use so-and-so property management as my go-to because my long-term rentals have found so much success because they want to be hands-off. This is my solution.
Yep.
No, and the people that are advising these things, then you can look at the property management and see, hey, does this all make sense? And do the due diligence to see, is this agent producing like any kind of value to this group? I love that. I love the mentality. I love that you're sitting there going, okay, these are the things that I look for, especially in a referral partner, but also this is how I'm giving value so that I can get those referrals as well. Because Steph and I do live in Southwest Florida. So beachfront properties, oh, they're hot, and man, people love using them for investments.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing to mention, especially when you're having those conversations with investors, some of them are very seasoned, and then some of them really don't have any experience, but they want to dive in. I always want to make sure that they're aware of what their options are, talking to them about what a long-term rental looks like, what a short-term rental looks like, what a midterm / seasonal rental looks like. Because it was really a buzzword, especially the last couple of years, Airbnb. And now we're seeing and we're hearing that, hey, things have shifted a little bit in the Airbnb arena. Zoning has changed. Nightly rates aren't as good. The occupancy is all over the board. I mean, you really want to talk to people, especially with newer investors. Hey, what do you ultimately want? Because sometimes Airbnb, so I'll say two sides of the coin. I have made a lot of money in Airbnb if it's a very specific like experience where it's limited for other people to jump into the market. And then I have had other Airbnbs that have fallen flat because the market is flooded. And so it's also important to have the conversation that if Airbnb shifts or you aren't getting what you want from a nightly rate and the occupancy, Then does midterm, can you shift your Airbnb to a midterm rental or a long-term rental, or like, what's that exit strategy? Because I have owned a lot of real estate through the years. Some I will probably keep until I die. And there's other things that I was like, I got to get this off the books because this is not what I signed up for, and everywhere in between. So making sure that you're educating your investors, those new investors, but also those long-term, of, okay, if things shift, which they do, are you going to be comfortable in keeping this property? If so, let's look at the numbers from a long term, and let's look at the numbers from a midterm, and what it would look like in actually selling that asset if it just doesn't fit for you.
I like how you went into the differentiators in there, because it reminded me of a quote somebody was telling me. They were like, if you want your Airbnb to book more, add a pool table. It was like, I was like, what? I was like, I get it. I do, because I rented them. And of course, I was looking at like differentiators between them. Yeah, I went for the one with a pool table, but I was like, differentiate your portfolio and encourage your people to do the same. And that's one of those things. It's like, if you're listening, then you'll get it. And if you understand, like you said, like the ROI on a pool table is silly. It's like $400 to buy, and like you can actually rent your Airbnb for an extra $20 a day just having it.
Right. Well, like, even what I have found is so interesting. This is the other thing that I really will tell, even from like an Airbnb standpoint, is it is about the experience. Like, even, okay, so something as stupid as a green wall like this, and you could have the name of your Airbnb on the back of it, and then say, hey, take a selfie and tag us at whatever. The more eyes that you can get on your Airbnb, like, even from a marketing perspective, how much does that green wall cost with the actual like light with it? Maybe $200. But do you know how that's going to make it sing? Just things like that. Or like a big Connect 4, or just different things like that. That's just like those, even the staging, the marketing, how to get more eyeballs on the property. It's just crazy how those little things can make all the difference in the world.
And we could sit here and go through Airbnb tactics, guys. Like, that could be the way that we steer this entire conversation. So as always, I want to encourage, I know somebody did put a Q&A question. You put a TikTok video in there. I'm sorry, the two of us cannot sit down and watch a TikTok video to discuss what's in the TikTok video. So if you want to digest it and re-question for us to answer it, we would love to do so. But we unfortunately, with a live webinar like this, we're not going to show a TikTok video in the middle of it. So sorry for that. But if we don't have too many questions, I know that Stef has a whole playbook on, long-term rentals. So if you want to dive into that, we can totally do so. And Krista, yes, the recording will be sent out. I did put that in the webinar chat. I'm not sure if you saw. It was the first thing I shared with everybody, but it will be condensed down. We do not include all of the questions and answers. And on top of that, we always try to condense it by at least an extra 5 to 10 minutes. All right, Jessica, you've got your hand raised. Is that because you would like to answer a live question, or did you put a chat and I just didn't see it? Let me see if I can. It looks like she's typing. So.
Okay. Well, the other thing that I did want to say, as far as the playbook, especially for agents that are like, okay, how do I really help people to up level that A game? Once you sit down with someone and they say, okay, this is how much I have to invest. The first step is really chatting with the lender. After they chat with the lender, then we want to see like, what area do they actually want to invest in, to really get crystal clear on those numbers. Because if they need to have this much of a cap rate, or they are just saying, oh, I just want to break even and have a great place for my family, or, I want to have this much of a cash flow, or once you have that in place, then you can go to work. And this is also something that I think is really important as investor friendly agents. If your area, like Southwest Florida is a different animal as far as an investing area. You know, some people would say, oh, it could be great in this and it can be great in that. And it's like, no, you need to know what does Southwest Florida bring to the table for investors? And if that does not fit what the goal is on the investor, then you need to know different areas. Otherwise, if you don't know the numbers on different areas, get educated on that, start asking other agents in other areas. And then if they say, hey, this is what I need my cap rate to be, then I'll be very honest and transparent and say, you know what? Southwest Florida really doesn't offer that cap rate in a single family home. But what I can do is I can introduce you to my colleague, Dan, and Dan is amazing. And he can find that cap rate for you in this area. And so it's so, so important to know, oh, you got to do your due diligence. You have to know your numbers. You have to have that right network in place. Because like even case in point, the Orlando Airbnb arena has really shifted. And especially with there's a lot of bigger investors that are like international investors. And so they've bought these homes. A lot of them have bought them cash, and they're now putting those properties on there for like $100 a night. That's really messing with the nightly rate for some of these properties in Orlando. So even one of my investors came to me and said, hey, I'm noticing on Airbnb that some of these gorgeous homes are going for $100 a night. Like, what should I buy in this area? And I said, Valerie, I will tell you, I want to introduce you to a couple of property managers in the area so that you can get a really good bird's eye view in real time, what you can actually expect. And then there's also some other great resources like airdna.co is another great resource that will give you real-time occupancy rates, will give you real-time nightly rates, what to expect. And you can, you know, even say, okay, I want to buy a home that can house, let's say 10 people. And so what can I expect? If those numbers don't fit for you, Valerie, I will do my due diligence to find another place that will, so that you don't lose that investor. They don't stay out of the market, but you help them because we are paid very nicely to solve problems. So how can we solve that problem for them? Even with interest rates being what they are, another really great guy to follow, you can actually follow him on Instagram. His name is Pace Morby. What he does, he really, really helps with like seller financing. So, you know, if these interest rates, if it isn't working for that investor, okay, well, what if you could take over the payment of the actual seller, make it a win-win for the investor, make it a win-win for the buyer, and now they're not going to stay out of the market. So educate yourself on seller financing, educate yourself on different areas, connect and network, because that is what is going to keep you in the game, especially if you're niching down as an investor friendly agent.
And be honest, I liked that you went in and said, hey, look, if you wanted that cap rate, this might not be the area for you. You know, be honest with it, and, you know, don't just try and sell a home to somebody who's an investor, because then they're not going to buy the next investment from you because they got skunked on the first one. That's how you ruin your reputation in it. You really want to do your due diligence. Like you said, look at the numbers and say, okay, maybe not this area, but this area. Or as you said, there's a shift. Now, even more recently, the laws have changed for Airbnbs. And as you said, even zoning, they're really cracking down on where and how many units of Airbnbs or short-term rentals, is, you know, VRBO is another big one, are in a specific area. Like, is that that's part of the education process, if I'm not mistaken?
Oh, 1,000%. I always will tell investors up front, this is what the Airbnb restrictions are right now. That could shift a month from now, 2 months from now, a year from now. It may not ever change. but you need to be aware that it could. I mean, even just in Southwest Florida, or even this is
Mhm.
all over. Even let's say someone buys a property in an HOA. The
Mhm.
HOA restrictions are how they are today. Not to say someone gets power hungry and then they shift it completely. So it is so important to let people know this is what's going on right here and now. It may shift in the future, it may not, but I just want to make you aware. You know, I really consider my clients my friends. And if you really have that relationship with them, it could be very easy as an agent to snowball someone and say, oh yeah, this totally fits the bill. Well, number one, you're screwing over your client, which is against so many principles. But on
Mhm.
top of that, you aren't going to build a sustainable business model. So the biggest thing is being honest, being transparent, and making sure that the numbers fit for them in the short term, in the long term, but also having a fallback position. If things shift with the HOA, if things shift with the city, if things shift with zoning, I would love to help you know what your options are down the line. And they
Yeah.
so appreciate that.
And everybody, if you follow Steph at the Boss Life, you'll see that when some of the things that she does is she does occasionally do these educational videos specifically to our area. I understand, but you can actually kind of replicate that for where you live. So if something does change, and I think a great example, like you said, is the HOA. Oh my gosh, that they said alone in Florida, 214, I think it was about 214 HOAs in particular had shifted towards removing short-term rentals from their communities. So there's this huge restriction on this. You've got even a new tax got pushed for an entire state that they upped the tax rate on short-term rentals. So, and part of it, we get it. It's partly because it did overflood the market. And what happened was we get all of these short-term rentals. Now we don't have long-term rentals. Now we're losing, we're having a housing shortage. Nobody's buying because they're all short-term rentals now, because it was, especially when Airbnb came out, great cash flow.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And they still are.
Oh, this is the thing as an agent, but also as an investor friendly agent, you have to pivot because I played hard in the Airbnb arena in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
Just, I couldn't believe how many people reached out to me. But as things are changing, as numbers are changing, does it still make sense for a lot of families? Absolutely. But there are some families now that it doesn't make sense for. So even a girlfriend of mine, I met her years and years ago. I flew out to Minnesota recently and spoke at a women's empowerment event. And she came up to me, and we always have this card. The card says, if I would fire my fear, I would. Then they'd have to write down what they would do. And then within 24 hours, I will. And then this is my power partner that's going to keep my feet to the fire. Anyways, this woman came up to me and she's like, I don't know if you remember me, but I've been following your journey and this is my card. If I fired my fear, I'd buy an investment property. Within 24 hours, I'm going to reach out to someone and you are that person and you're going to keep me accountable. And I'm like, absolutely, sign me up. Let's do it. And so we jumped on the phone just a couple days ago and she said, Stephanie, I'm making really good money with what I'm doing, but I don't have a retirement. And I'm thinking that Airbnb is going to be my best bet, but educate me because I don't know. And I
Mhm.
said, what is your end game, Renee? And she said, I want to have a really strong appreciating asset. And I want to have something that's very, very hands off. And I want to make sure that it cash flows. I need to make sure that it cash flows. And so I said, well, what area would you ideally want to buy in? She said, well, in the Minnesota area, like on a lake or somewhere in Florida. And I said, can I just share with you from friend to a friend what I would advise with what you're ultimately looking for? And she said, absolutely. I said, in Minnesota, you don't have as much, as strong of an appreciation game as you do historically here in Florida. And she said, okay. And I said, you can absolutely do Airbnb, but with the limited amount of time that you have, you can absolutely hire a property manager that specializes in Airbnb, but then you are going to be paying them about 15% on that property. You know, the other thing is you can keep some of the expenses a little bit lower. And then, you know, with Airbnb, you do have seasons. So you have higher seasons, which is great, but then you have lower seasons where you're kind of, you're in a little bit more of a gamble. So I said, if I were you and you're wanting strong appreciation, Southwest Florida is really strong appreciation. What I would do is I would do either a seasonal rental or I would do a long-term rental. And then we can look to see if you're looking for strong appreciation. Historically, single family homes appreciate faster than townhomes and condos. So let's set you up a search. First off, let's get you pre-approved with the lender. And then once we know exactly where you're at from a financial standpoint, then I can set up a couple of different searches. And then you can feed back to me what you feel most comfortable with. And I'll walk you through step by step. And she said, Stephanie, what a freaking godsend, because I don't know what I'm doing, but I do know I want to build that financial future for myself and I don't have much time. Could she do Airbnb? Yes, but you have to really look at those numbers, pop those numbers into airdna.co. And is that going to fit the bill? You've got more of a cost of doing business with client or, you know, renters coming in and out. And there's a lot of more moving pieces that people will say, oh, well, a property manager will take care of that. Yeah, but if the AC goes out, who's going to hear about it? If, you know, they totally did something in the living room that destroyed the property, you're going to hear about it. I feel like you can, yeah. So anyways, I'll get off that tangent, but I think it's important to walk people through that.
No, it's definitely important and something that you touched up on, and it actually goes back to our pre-conversation. So everybody, before we actually started, Steph and I were talking about different things that we're seeing in the news. We were seeing people were predicting that real estate agents are going to die off and all these things. One of the things that I wanted to point out to everybody is that, especially with investors, and as Steph has shown, you are an advisor. At the end of the day, somebody's coming to you for advice on something, and that's worth the price of admission for somebody to buy a home from you. That's what they're looking for. And adding that excess value, just like Steph walked us through, going through and saying, look, here's my honest opinion. This is what I'm seeing. This location may work, this may not. This one works, this does not. This type of home may not fit your goals. And you're the advisor. And so educating yourself more and more, I think, is key. Having great webinars like this, following Steph's, following her podcast, which I'm actually going to quickly throw the link into the chat. So definitely follow her, because they have lots and lots of great tips, great things that go over what they're seeing today in real estate. So it's a great way to keep up with, investment properties and the like. Now we are down to the last 10 minutes. So of course, everybody, if you have questions, please enter them in. Totally up for it. In the meantime, Steph, I want you to give, if you had a rookie who is starting on your team today, okay, and I know you run teams, like, you're like, yes, give this question. And you were to give that one rookie or that new agent one absolute solid piece of advice to start working with investors, what is that piece of advice?
Educate yourself on your market, because people, like you said, people are coming to us as being the advisor. Like, I want you to know what the resources that you have at your fingertips. So when an investor says, I need this cap rate, you're not like a deer in headlights. Or if they say, what would my nightly rate be? Or what could I bank on from a long-term standpoint on this property? I would say, educate yourself and network. Those would be the two things as a new rookie agent. Network with the contractors, network with the HVAC people, network with these go-to resources. Because I always will tell my clients at the beginning in a buyer's consult, I will tell them, once I sell you the home, that's where our relationship starts. That's not where it ends. I want to make sure that you are so excited about this property. You can't shut up about me. I will never ask for a referral, but I want to make sure that you are so fired up about your investment process with me that you want to tell the world about it. So that is the biggest thing is I send them all the things. Like I have videos that I will send them piece by piece by piece as we go through the buying process. So I not only have educated myself, but I educate them through the process. And that is the gift that keeps on giving. That's why I've never paid personally for a lead for myself, because it comes from social, it comes from word of mouth referral, because people are doing themselves a disservice by not working with me. So it's one of those things that if you can become the go-to resource on these are the great restaurants, these are the great things to do on the weekends, these are the contractors, these are the pool people, these are the cleaners, the more that you can educate yourself of being the go-to resource for them, that is what is going to get you ahead. Build those relationships with those people, because even those contractors, they are going to know people that are investors, and they can even send those people over to you. So it's such a beautiful, dance and win-win. That's what I would say for that.
So education being the most important. Now, I was curious because this is what you didn't mention was buying your own investment property being the first piece of advice.
Okay. Well said, Josh. It's funny. One of the last podcasts that I
Steph and I are friends. So, I had to throw this one at her. I was like, oh, she missed this one.
I love it. Absolutely. Hands down. I love surrounding myself with people that are way smarter than me. Case in point. No, because here's the thing, like even my brother, I do a podcast with him, and we were asking each other questions with the guests that we had on, and then I gave my answer when she asked me the same question I asked her, and then Ben's like, no, that's not your answer, this is your answer. And I'm like, oh, you're right, that is my answer. So it's so great to have those great people and great friends around you that just keep you on your toes. So yes, Josh, 1000% buy an investment for yourself, because when you can share from your heart, I'm not only telling you what to do, I am sharing from experience. This is what I have done, and this is how I'm building up my portfolio. I've always told my team, don't share big dreams with small minds, and don't take financial advice from a broke person.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there are, what's crazy to me is there are agents that are investor friendly that don't even own their own home. I can't. I have no words. You have got to get down and dirty and build an empire for yourself so that you can share from experience and then pay that forward to your clients. I truly believe that the reason that I think a lot of people trust me is because, I've been investing since 2008. And let's say you don't have any investments yet. Really lean on those people in your circle that do, so they can help to educate you, bring you up to speed so that you can do that for yourself. My dad has said that from day one. One of the best things that you can do for your financial future is to invest in real estate. I don't know if I had mentioned this on the actual recording or if we chatted about this before we pressed record, but even if I lost all my other streams of income, real estate investing would sustain my lifestyle. And especially as a single gal on my own, it's really amazing to have that security that I have dug my well before I've been thirsty. I have created those multiple streams of income. So hands down, Josh, I stand corrected. Buy yourself a piece of real estate and you will not be sorry.
So what's really funny is I did throw that curveball in here. But believe it or not, Steph is right from the get-go, because in order for you to buy your first investment property, guess what you need? Education. first and foremost. So as much as, yes, I threw that curveball right at you, it's on purpose. It's to keep these kind of things really fun. But everybody to know, I threw that in there just because I know that the truth is education comes first. Educate yourself, do it yourself, and then teach others how to do it. I think that's the flow of things. Steph over here is like, why'd you have to say that one? Like,
I'm all about it. I'm all about it. Well,
right.
Josh, there's something else I wanted to add when you're done. The other thing that I did want to add to that, it depends on what type of personality that you have, because education is so important, but don't get in the paralysis of analysis. You can learn and learn and learn and watch all the YouTube videos, but like Josh said, pull the trigger. God can't drive a parked car. Ready, fire, aim. Like, you've got to take action. You earn as you learn. Don't get paralysis of analysis. So do your due diligence in educating yourself, but then pull the trigger, because you are going to learn so much in your first investment property of like, wouldn't do that again. That was a natural disaster. Oh, that didn't go well. Well, now you can speak from firsthand experience to your clients. Like, one of my greatest things that I love sharing with clients is my 3x3 rule. When you are doing rehab on a property, you want to get 3 quotes. And then from those three quotes, whoever you think is the best one, get 3 live referrals that you can call to do your due diligence on, like, let's say you want to rehab a bathroom with that contractor that you've chosen. Out of those 3 quotes, get 3 of their clients that have had a rehab of a bathroom, so that you can get firsthand actual live feedback versus them saying, I'm amazing. I have got in deep trouble in my first couple of rehabs by not doing my due diligence with the contractor, not doing my due diligence there. So the 3x3 rule, educate yourself, get into the arena, course correct, and you will be in a great position, and you will be helping so many more clients by just educating yourself, educating them, and speaking from your heart in what you've accomplished in your real estate portfolio.
I did get a fun question through all of this in the private chat.
Yeah.
And because they were like, that we talked about pool tables, but what are 3 other items that you see in Airbnbs that are adding value to Airbnbs today?
Okay, well, something that I think is very important, that even one of my last clients, she's like, well, I can add a pool later. Yes, you can add a pool later, but your nightly rates with a pool exponentially more. So having a pool is so important, especially in Southwest Florida. I'm sure there's lots of other areas that is important, but I would say that is a night and day as far as the nightly rate goes.
Wow.
The other thing that this would be a little bit, I would say, of a tipping point, because when people are comparing hundreds of Airbnbs on the platform to yours, having a spa, having a hot tub versus not, that's another thing that a lot of times renters will look for, that they're like, I like a pool, but I also would love to have a hot tub. So that's another thing that people are like, oh, that's kind of a fun extra. Then I would say other things is like experiences, like even putting together like a cute little game room for them, that can be a tipping point. So like my parents at their Airbnb in Minnesota, now this is a full-blown thing, but they added a pickleball court to theirs. Which you don't have to go that far. That's a little extreme. But even having like a big Connect Four, or having tons of different games, because when families come together and they have an experience, the more that they can have fun, the more that they can have that experience, the better off that they're going to be. So the pool table kind of falls right in alignment with that. So I would say the pool table, a hot tub, like a game room type of a thing. And then let's see, what would be one other thing that I would say from an Airbnb standpoint? I would say now this, having something that's marketable. So having something like I said, just like the back of here, having some place where they can take a selfie, someplace, especially for those that are like influencers, the more that you can tag that property, get more eyeballs on it after the fact, that's going to be paying you out tenfold. So think about experience. How can you create an experience for the end consumer? And that's what's going to get that word of mouth referral going for you.
Yeah. And honestly, the number one piece of advice I got was to first, if you have an investor that's got an Airbnb, make them stay in their own Airbnb for a day.
Yes.
Personal experience, went to an Airbnb, boasted Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi password, boasted TVs, no remotes to be found in the entire place, zero silverware. I was like, this is not ready. Nobody stayed here. Nobody understood the assignment that was given. So always do that and add these little add-ons. I like, the pool. I'm very curious to always hear the ROI on a pool, because you're right. It does, but they can be costly.
They can. Well, what I will always say is look for a property that already has a pool. I would never advise buying a property and adding a pool. You'll never get the return there.
I was like sitting there myself going like, wow, she's telling the pool. Like,
don't add a pool. That's the beginning. Yeah. No, do not add a pool. Buy a property that has a pool. You will never get that back. I'm glad you shared that from a clarification standpoint.
Yeah. Because I was like, okay, this is really unique. Yeah, I think those are all great. I like the idea of the selfie board. Again, you want people tagging your property, make it stand out. I think that's, at the end of the day, standing out is what's key. You got to be able to create a property that's marketable with, and what's kind of cool is you get to dream this property up with your, investors that are buying this. Is that kind of how it works?
Oh, absolutely. Well, even like in our Airbnb in Duluth, Minnesota, it's on the lake, and we added an adorable coffee bar. And we've got such great feedback of like, I love the coffee bar, because I'm obsessed with coffee. And some people aren't, but there's a lot of people that are. So it's like, oh, if you can just like create something that's going to be that sticking point, and then we have the green background on something, and then we have just like little nooks that's like a game area, and just different things like that experience makes all the difference in the world. And I would even ask the people that have stayed at an Airbnb, what are some other things that you would like to see at this property? Actually, because my whole family, we invest in short-term, long-term, and seasonal. We make it a practice that we will stay in each one of our Airbnbs at least one time a year, because then we're going to see, okay, what needs to be course corrected? What isn't working quite right? How can we up level? Just the more that we can keep raising the bar, the better the better experience that client, that end consumer, and that client is going to have.
Yeah, everybody, like, take a quick note that one thing to always encourage your buyers to do, your investors to do, is to stay at that property. As Steph just said, they make it a goal to stay there once a year. Now, you as the agent can also do the same to keep advising them, to keep growing their profits. Not necessary, but having them for sure do so. Definitely some great guidance. All right, well, we are at the end of the webinar. Thank you so much, Steph, for joining us. And I hope everybody got so much value out of this. Definitely check out The Boss Life and learn even more about investing. She has courses, she has podcasts, all kinds of cool stuff to check out, and always pick her brain on Instagram and get more referral business. So
oh yeah, if you want to actually, if you watch this Zoom, I would love for you to send me a DM at ladyboss_SP on Instagram and let me know what area do you actually service, because I love building my network with other amazing agents throughout the United States. So at ladyboss_SP, and even with our podcast, my brother and I have been doing that Boss Life podcast and talking talking with people all over the board from a real estate investing standpoint. At the beginning, it was more personal development. We really have morphed over to real estate. So there's powerhouses that have joined us. Actually, your dad was on one of the episodes and he did amazing. And it's really, really fun to connect. So I would love to see it. I'd love for you to send me a DM. Let's connect and let's keep rocking out the real estate arena together.
Yeah, I added a link to her Instagram in the bottom, so definitely join. And thank you.
Oh, Josh, thank you so much for the invite. So great to chat about all the things real estate investing.